Okay, I'm gonna turn this off here. I'm gonna try something here. Last year I did the top 10 goaltenders list, and here's my thing. So top 10, I'm talking about top 10 regular season starters. So we're not talking about playoffs. We're not talking about this guy's gonna win you a cup. Which, and I'm gonna get this out of the way first. Marc-Andre Fleury won 9 games in the playoffs, and without him as the guy to go to behind Murray, if they had to go to Tristan Jarry or whoever, odds are Pittsburgh doesn't win the Stanley Cup. Okay. Regular season at this point, Marc-Andre Fleury I don't view as a top 10 goaltender. Part of my reasoning behind saying Vegas would realistically should be looking in a different direction is they're not a playoff team. Marc-Andre Fleury can play a lot of games, and he's a great guy. But you want, at least I thought they wanted young guys, and then Derek Englund got picked, and I'm like, oh, okay, okay, all right, fine. But I don't view him as a premier top 10 regular season goaltender. So, to the shock and amazement of some, I'm not going to have Fleury in the top 10. I'm not going to have Hellebuck in the top 10. Because Hellebuck, and Winnipeg fans rightfully aren't impressed with Hellebuck or with Cheveldayoff right now. But I do think Hellebuck has potential to be better. I'm not putting Markstrom in the top 10. I know Vancouver's likely going to bring back Miller. It's fine, because I wouldn't have Ryan Miller in the top 10 either. So, Philly right now, Neuwirth would be the starter. Neuwirth's not a top 10, but I can't see a top 10 goaltender getting traded to Philly either. So I'm not worried about a Philly goaltender, because this is all 31 right now projected top 10s. Or projected starters, I should say, projected top 10. So, that seems to be the easy part. I'm not going to have Varlamov in there, because Varlamov's stats haven't been top 10 for a long time. And he was injured most of last season. Injuries can be a problem. Which is why right now, I don't have Jonathan Quick in there. Because Jonathan Quick, for me, he's not in that top 10 list. He's not there. As a Boston fan wearing a Boston jersey, I am acknowledging Tuukka Rask is not top 10. Boston made the playoffs last year. Or this season. Tuukka Rask played very well for the first quarter of the season, and then his play, it dipped significantly. I can't have Scott Darling in the top 10. Here's why. Scott Darling has never been in the position that he finds himself in right now in Carolina. He is a starter. It's completely different playing behind a Carolina defense instead of Chicago. It is completely different going into this situation as a starter instead of being in a battery with Corey Crawford. So I can't have Darling in there. Thomas Greiss is not top 10. And neither is James Reimer. Greiss is still in a situation with Halak in New York. How the hell are we still dealing with Greiss and Halak being the goaltenders for the Islanders? Garth Snow, you were a goalie. Figure it out. And Reimer, and I had Reimer up for Florida. Luongo, Reimer, they're 50-50. I think this year Reimer takes more lion's share of the starts. But he's not a top 10 goalie. And I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with that. Then it starts getting tricky for me. Ronta, well, Ronta is going to be a nice story in Arizona. But again, for the same reason as Scott Darling, he hasn't been a starter, so I can't say, oh, he's a top 10 goaltender, as in a top 10 starter. And I do intend to do top 10 backups, but I'm going to structure that after free agency because backups are going to move around. And based on how much that backup likely plays, or whether or not that guy ends up being a borderline starter, I may have to rethink some things after free agency. But I'm just trying to come up with top 10 starters, which really shouldn't be affected by free agency if they're truly top 10. And it does get tricky from here. I'm not going to have Martin Jones in the top 10. because I think he's a very good goaltender, but I think he's middling at this point. Mike Smith, I'm sorry, Calgary fans. I don't see him as a top 10 goaltender. I know he's being trumpeted as the starter, as Elliott was, as Roman Turek was. Basically, everybody who's not Mika Kiprusoff for the last 10 years, 15 years almost. Calgary's had an issue in net, and Philly totally feels your pain. Vasilevsky, no. Vasilevsky played relatively well at the end of the season. He looks like he's rounding into being a very good goaltender, but at this point, I don't see Vasilevsky in that category because he hasn't proven he can do it over a longer period of time. Jimmy Howard, he had a good year. Jimmy Howard had a good year. But, again, Jimmy Howard isn't at that level and hasn't proven that he can be consistently. Lehner, it's tough to argue Lehner over some of the remaining goaltenders. Really, really tough. Lehner had a decent season. Lehner takes a lot of criticism, but he is a very solid goaltender. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm down to 15 goaltenders. Well, you can't take Matt Murray out because he's got 2 Stanley Cup rings while still eligible to be a Calder Trophy winner. So 2 rookie seasons, 2 Stanley Cups. Matt Murray does something that no goaltender's ever going to do again. So, why was Jones in here twice? Oh, I know who I missed. And he's not going to be in the top 10 either. Jake Allen had a good year. Eventually. Jake Allen was the one I meant to have up there instead of the second Jones. So, St. Louis fans who've been going, you don't have Jake Allen up there. Yeah, no, it's fine. Well, it's not fine, but Jake Allen is capable, and in the playoffs he looked really, really good, but he may be a playoffs goaltender more than a regular season goaltender, and we'll see how this year plays out for him, but right now I wouldn't put him in the top 10. And then it gets really difficult. I'm a Dallas fan, but I don't see Ben Bishop top 10 right now based on this past season. Bishop's a good goaltender, but when I saw the term and the money, I was like, that's something. And we've still got Niemi and Lehtinen on the books. And I say Lehtinen instead of letting in because letting in sounds like letting the goals in. And it just every time there's a bad goal, I go, well, your name's letting in, and you're letting them in. And you don't have a goalie named Lehtinen in my idea, in my world. You just don't. Just like if a goalie, oh, he's a really good guy. What's his name? Oh, he's Robert Siv. Siv, you say? Okay. Bye. Okay, so here's what we've got. We've got a lot of good goalies in here, a lot of really good goaltenders in here, and this is part of the reason why I think goaltending in the NHL is the best it's ever been. The best goaltending has ever been in the NHL. Because you can make an argument for any of these guys in a top 10 list. You really could. So, taking Craig Anderson out, well, that sucks. It sucks because he's a great story. He's a great story. And he was fantastic in the playoffs. But I don't have him in the same category as these guys. And this list has changed from last year a little bit. It has changed a little bit. So we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 goaltenders, and it's a shame John Gibson's not going to be on that list. I'll just wipe John Gibson out. I can't wait to see the comment section on this one. This is going to be fun. Oh boy. And no matter who I remove from this list, fans are going to be angry. So I'm going to take Freddie Anderson out. Freddie Anderson had a very good season for Toronto. He did. He's a good goaltender. Consistency is still an issue. And I know not all of these goaltenders were consistently great last year, but they've proven themselves. So this is the top 10 I'm going to work with. Okay, so now we're into the top 10, and I'm going to wear Colorado Rockies and Atlanta Thrashers since I'm relocating. After this video gets posted, I'll just relocate myself somewhere. It's funny, but people... Some of these list videos are... It's fun for me. I always enjoy doing this stuff. And these videos tend to get a little bit longer, but I enjoy doing this stuff because, for me, figuring out who I feel are whatever, it's my opinion. It's not necessarily one that anybody else is going to share. And I do this so you guys give me your top 10 lists, and then we have a discussion, and we come up with some kind of consensus. Eventually, we'll be able to start running polls and stuff. And during the next 2 weeks, I'm going to set that kind of thing up so we can, start doing polls on who all the best are. But here we go. So number 10, and again, this is regular season. I would still have Rinne at number 10, and I'm a big fan of Rinne. It was an inspiring story in the playoffs, but don't be too seduced by one playoff run. As a Canuck fan who watched Kirk McLean have one big playoff run, Richard Brodeur had one big playoff run, it can be very, very inspiring to watch a guy go through that kind of a run, but they don't necessarily replicate it. So while Rinne's story was incredible, I would still rank him as top 10, but just barely top 10. And again, this is regular season, so remember that. When you guys are saying, in Game 7 you would want this guy, yes, but. And I'm going to take Lundqvist and put him at number 9, which is going to upset Rangers fans, but hear me out on this. So, you have a chance to grab any goaltender in the NHL right now. Lundqvist has been showing signs over the last few years of age, and injuries are starting to become more of an issue with him. So I wouldn't put Lundqvist higher than these guys based on a combination of age and whether it's real or it's imagined fragility. Great goaltender, one of the all-time greats, Hall of Famer, absolutely. Again, he had a Stanley Cup final run. And I really thought this year maybe he was going to go on another one, but it just didn't work out that way. At number 8, this is where it gets really, really tough. But as tough as it is, I'm going to put Corey Crawford on this list. Crawford's a very good goaltender. He is pretty fantastic at times. But there's his... I wouldn't put him above these guys. And before anybody gets any more upset than that, I'm not going to put Corey Schneider any higher than 7th right now. I know Schneider had a down season. I know Corey Schneider had a down season, and that was part of what doomed the New Jersey Devils. They couldn't score. Their defense was adequate defensively. Offensively, it was a mess. Defensively, it was adequate. But when Schneider wasn't saving the pucks early in the season, it sunk them pretty good. So I'm not dragging Schneider any higher than 7th. And last year, I think I had him at 3rd, 4th or 3rd. His career save percentage is fantastic. And he's played for New Jersey and Vancouver. He hasn't played for fantastic, great, awesome teams. So Schneider at 7th is as high as I can justify putting him right now, which puts these guys top 6. Number 6, remember regular season. Alert, alert, regular season. Matt Murray's a Calder eligible player right up until he wins that Stanley Cup. 2 straight Stanley Cups are fantastic. I'm putting him ahead of some very, very good goaltenders. I can't justify putting him top 5 because he hasn't put together a regular season run like that, but I would be absolutely... I would have to be biased against the Penguins not to have Murray on this list and have him this high, because in high-pressure games, he plays well. He could drop right off this list next year, depending on what happens with Pittsburgh, but I really don't think he will. He had a tough point during the regular season, but I still see enough in Murray's game to say I would have him number 6 on my list. Number 5. He's a good story. He's a great story. And he's been nominated for Vezinas, and rightfully so. And he is head and shoulders above most other goaltenders in the league, but I can already hear them. Dubnyk, I would put at 5th. 4th right now, I know he wins Vezinas, but he plays behind Washington's defense, which is usually pretty solid. I think it props up his stats a little bit, not as much as people say. And in the playoffs this year, he was a bit down, but he's usually really good in the playoffs, which aren't a part of this. Regular season, I still think Holtby is damn fantastic. So that takes you down to Bobrovsky, Price, and Talbot. There you go, Oilers fans. I'm agreeing with you that Cam Talbot kind of got hosed on Vezina voting this year. Kind of a little bit by a lot. And I'll even go a step further. Bobrovsky had a fantastic season, which was after a middling season. I don't know that he can replicate it. I don't know that he can replicate it. But still, I have Bobrovsky at 3rd. So 2nd, I am very sorry, Oilers fans, but Cam Talbot is 2nd because even though he had a down year by his standards, Carey Price is still the best goaltender in the league. There you go, Montreal fans. Here you go. Carey Price. There you go. All hail Price. Carey Price is still the best goaltender in the league. I know he didn't win the Vezina this year, but I still, for my money, if I was starting a team and I was saying, all right, where's my goaltender going to be? These are the first 10. Let me know your 10 in the comment section below. Let me know why my 10 is completely wrong. You could put Jake Allen in ahead of Pekka Rinne. I would have no problem with it. You can move anybody around on this list you want, and I'm not going to have a problem with it. You want to argue that Matt Murray is the best goaltender in the league? Let me know why in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And yes, I intend to do these kinds of lists during the summer. It's just a fun thing I do. There's nothing scientific about it. It's just me looking at a list and going, that's the guy. And I'm not necessarily proud that that's the guy. Keep in mind, I don't cheer for Montreal. Edmonton's middling for me. I like Columbus. I like Washington. Not a Minnesota fan. Not a Pittsburgh fan. Not a New Jersey fan. Chicago, not really a Rangers fan, but if they're against Montreal, I love them. And I like Nashville. So none of this is based on my personal preference. My favorite teams, it would be Tuukka Rask, Ben Bishop, and probably Ryan Miller. And I don't have any of them in the top 10. Let me know your top 10, and we'll talk again later.